Beneath the scorched horizon of the Egyptian delta, a storm gathers not of wind, but of whispers. Dr. Layla Hassan lowers her lantern into the fissure beneath the Temple of Taposiris Magna, her breath caught between fear and revelation. For centuries, the sands have swallowed stories of gods and empires, but this could be the tomb of Egypt's last queen, the woman who defied Rome with a serpent's bite. As the camera drifts deeper, the air thickens with history's exhale, the scent of myrrh, the taste of dust older than any scripture. Layla's voice trembles as she calls to Mark above. She wanted to be remembered, not found. The light flickers, revealing stone carvings, the cartouche of Cleopatra 7 intertwined with that of Osiris. Above them, thunder murmurs, like a warning from the past. The deeper they descend, the air thickens with the scent of ancient oils and time's exhaustion. Dr. Layla Hassan steadies her breath, each step echoing through the passage like the heartbeat of the buried world. The walls begin to narrow, painted with processions of gods escorting a queen to her judgment before Osiris. Mark Alvarez mutters that no tomb has ever shown Cleopatra's likeness beside the gods. Her presence here would defy everything Rome's victors recorded. Layla touches the stone, murmuring that perhaps that was the point, to erase Rome's triumph by sanctifying her defeat. As the passage dips lower, the murmur of wind becomes a hum, and a faint glimmer of blue light emerges ahead. Reflected moonlight, filtered through an ancient shaft, leading to something vast, something waiting. The chamber opens suddenly, vast and cold as a cathedral carved from memory. Layla's lantern catches the curve of pillars, each one engraved with cartouches eroded to near oblivion. The floor is strewn with relics, shattered amphorae, fragments of gold leaf, and shards of alabaster shaped like serpent heads. Mark kneels beside a broken urn and lifts a small obsidian mirror, its surface black and flawless. The mirror of a queen, he whispers, or her illusion. The air trembles with the low hum of wind through unseen shafts, and somewhere beyond the darkness, water drips rhythmically, like time keeping count of intruders. Layla raises her lantern higher, illuminating the faint outline of a doorway sealed with plaster, its surface impressed with the mark of the double crown. Outside, the storm breaks over the desert, and thunder rolls through the temple like a pulse from another age. Tanim waits at the surface, pacing near the excavation tent, eyes fixed on the trembling sand. Lightning flashes, illuminating the temple facade, the image of Isis holding the ankh mirrored in the rain-soaked stone. Below, Layla and Mark begin to breach the plastered seal. The sound of the first crack echoes through the hollow tunnel, a sound neither human nor divine, but something between. Mark hesitates. What if it's not meant to be opened? Layla answers, then it should not have been found. With one final strike, the plaster breaks, and a gust of air bursts from the void, as if the tomb itself exhales for the first time in 2 millennia. The doorway groans open, revealing a chamber untouched, since Egypt's last queen vanished from history. Inside lies not treasure, but devotion. A sarcophagus of basalt veiled in linen shreds, surrounded by offerings, alabaster jars, lotus garlands turned to dust, gold fragments shaped like serpents. The air is thick with oil and decay, yet strangely sweet. Layla steps forward, her voice low and reverent. If this is truly her resting place, she has been waiting for the world to forgive her. Mark shines his light across the sarcophagus, hieroglyphs spiral across its lid, invocation of Isis to guard the beloved of Osiris in eternity. The thunder above fades, leaving only the slow heartbeat of dripping water and the breath of two mortals, realizing they stand on the threshold of legend. Morning breaks over the storm-drenched temple. The sand, damp and gleaming, carries the scent of rain mixed with centuries of dust. In the base camp, Dr. Layla Hassan sits alone with her notes spread out, her eyes drawn to the cartouche sketches, now darkened by the watermark of age. Her words tremble as she speaks into her recorder. Cleopatra's tomb may not have been meant to glorify her death, but to hide it. The camera drifts to the temple facade, where the stone carvings seem newly alive in the morning, light as if the queen's shadow still lingers. Mark approaches with fresh coffee, his skepticism cracking into awe. You realize, Layla, if this is truly her, history isn't ready for her return. She looks toward the horizon where the desert meets the sea. History rarely is. The scene shifts. Alexandria, 30 BCE. Smoke curls above the harbor. Rome's legions have taken the city. Inside her marble sanctuary, Cleopatra walks barefoot across the mosaic floor, her golden robe whispering like wind through her eyes, dark, sharp, unbroken, rest on a serpent carved into her armrest. She turns to her attendant, voice soft as a prayer. Let Rome claim my throne, but not my soul. The sound of distant horns drifts through the sea air, mingling with the low roar of waves against the palace stones. Her mind lingers on the tomb she had built far to the west, at Taposiris Magna, a sanctuary bound to Osiris, a secret Rome will never find. Back in the present, Layla and Mark step deeper into the chamber beyond the sarcophagus. The air thickens, and walls glisten with faint mineral traces like veins of gold. Layla's flashlight catches a mural. The queen kneeling before Osiris, her body half serpent, half human. It's a transformation, not a death, Mark whispers. She wasn't buried as a mortal. She buried herself as a goddess. Layla nods, her voice breaking with wonder. Osiris was reborn through Isis. Perhaps Cleopatra sought the same. The deeper they move, the more the boundary between myth and evidence dissolves. Each hieroglyph feels alive, like eyes carved to watch whoever dares disturb her peace. Rome closes in. Alexandria burns. Cleopatra stands before her priests in the temple courtyard, her robe now dark with the soot of war. Octavian's messengers wait beyond the gates, demanding her surrender. The priests chant hymns to Isis, their voices trembling like torches in the wind. Cleopatra raises a golden chalice filled with lotus oil and honey, her words quiet but unyielding. The gods have no need of Rome. The camera follows her gaze upward to the stormed sky, where thunder rolls across the sea. The decision is made, not to die by Caesar's will, but to ascend beyond mortal reach. Layla kneels beside the sarcophagus once more, pressing her palm against the carved surface. Beneath her hand, she feels a subtle vibration, like the faint echo of a heartbeat. The instruments show no seismic movement, no airflow, no rational cause. Mark leans closer, his voice nearly a whisper. It's resonance. The stone's alive. Layla closes her eyes, feeling the pulse of history beneath her fingertips. No, it's memory. The camera pulls back slowly, revealing the vastness of the temple ruins, the team's lights flickering like stars beneath the desert. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolls once again. Soft, deliberate, like the echo of a queen's breath across time. Night falls over the excavation. The desert hums with silence, broken only by the rasp of wind against the tents. Dr. Layla Hassan sits beside the uncovered sarcophagus, her lantern swaying softly in the gloom. She listens to the quiet as if it might speak. Above ground, the temple casts long shadows under a waning moon. In her notes, she writes, "The tomb is not death, it is a transformation." Her words tremble as she closes the notebook, for she senses what historians never wrote, that Cleopatra chose her tomb not for burial but for rebirth. Below, the lantern flickers, its flame bending toward the sarcophagus, as if drawn by an unseen breath. In Alexandria's palace, Cleopatra stands before a mirror of polished silver. Her attendants have gone. Only silence remains. The mirror reflects her not as she is, but as she was. A queen crowned by gods, not men. She draws the asp from a woven basket, its body coiling like liquid shadow. Her eyes close as she whispers to Isis, not for mercy, but for passage. In her reflection, the serpent moves as if on command, gliding toward her bare arm. Outside, Octavian's soldiers approach the gates, their armor gleaming like knives in the sun. The queen's last smile is neither fear nor surrender. It is remembrance. Layla's breath catches as a faint sound arises within the chamber. A whisper, low and rhythmic, like a woman's voice speaking from stone. The hieroglyphs pulse under her light, the carved eyes of Isis seeming to blink. Mark rushes in, drawn by the sound, his camera trembling in his hands. "It's coming from inside," he murmurs. Layla nods, her voice almost reverent. "Then we are not the first to hear her." She places her ear against the sarcophagus, and the faint whisper resolves into words, indistinct but unmistakably human. Outside, lightning fractures the sky. Inside, Cleopatra's secret stirs again. The serpent strikes, not with violence but release. Cleopatra's hand trembles as the ASS fangs find her skin. The venom moves swiftly, turning her pain into serenity. The world blurs. Her throne room dissolves into stars. She feels the weight of Rome vanish, replaced by the hum of eternity. In the fading light, she whispers one final truth. No empire outlasts the gods. As her body falls back against the marble couch, the asp coils beside her heart, still as a relic. Outside, the sea crashes against Alexandria's walls, its roar a funeral hymn for the last pharaoh of Egypt. In the tomb below Taposiris Magna, Layla lifts her chisel one final time. Mark steadies the light. The lid gives way with a deep sigh of stone. Inside lies not a skeleton, but a statue. An effigy carved in Cleopatra's likeness, obsidian and gold, the features serene and dulled. Across her chest, serpents of beaten gold coil in perfect stillness. Layla kneels, unable to speak. Mark murmurs she buried her body as a goddess, so none could claim her remains. The camera pulls back slowly as the lantern's light fades, the queen's carved eyes reflecting the flame. Unblinking. For the first time in centuries, she looks upon the living once more. By dawn, the chamber is no longer silent. The walls hum faintly, as though remembering voices once sealed within. Dr. Layla Hassan stands before the effigy, her eyes wet with sleepless wonder. Mark paces nearby, recording every symbol, but words fail him. The hieroglyphs across the lid glisten with dew from underground moisture, each one forming a prayer of rebirth. Layla murmurs, she never meant to be found. She meant to be awakened. The camera drifts slowly around them as light from the newly risen sun filters through the tunnel, illuminating the golden serpents entwined around Cleopatra's likeness. The air shivers, alive with reverence. Far away in Rome's ruins, the marble bust of Augustus gleams beneath museum glass. A whisper of air moves through the hall, as if carried from Egypt. The camera lingers on the emperor's carved eyes, which seem to watch, cold and uncertain. The voice of Cleopatra, soft and echoing from centuries past, overlays the image. You built monuments to power. I built mine to memory. Her words fade into the present, where Layla's brush moves carefully over the carved crown, uncovering symbols never before seen. Not Egyptian, but hybrid. A union of gods and mortals. History shifts beneath her fingertips. Or unless I'm more. The excavation site swells with light and activity. Journalists, guards, and local workers gather, though few understand the gravity of what rests below. Tanin descends first with reverent caution, his eyes filled with pride and unease. Layla stands near the sarcophagus, unwilling to leave, her body trembling from exhaustion. Mark speaks softly to the camera, his voice steady but hollow. "We came searching for bones. We found divinity instead." Layla turns to him, her expression distant. "Or maybe we found the truth the world refused to remember." The scene closes with the sound of camera shutters, each flash reflecting off Cleopatra's obsidian eyes. Flashback: Alexandria, the day after Cleopatra's death. Her priests move in secret, guided by her final command. Under the cover of darkness, they sail west along the Nile Delta, bearing the queen's embalmed body toward Taposiris Magna. Torches flicker on the water, casting molten reflections. As dawn approaches, the priests chant her name as Isis reborn. They seal her tomb in silence, their tears mixing with sacred oils. The last of them writes upon a papyrus scroll, "Let her rest with the god she loved, unseen by conquerors." The camera lingers on the closing of the stone lid, the beginning of her immortality. At dusk, the temple stands bathed in amber light. The excavation has paused. The team disperses quietly. Layla remains alone in the tomb, the last guardian of a rediscovered secret. She whispers a prayer not to disturb the dead, but to understand them. The queen's effigy glows softly under the last of the sun's descent. Layla's reflection merges with Cleopatra's in the obsidian surface, two women divided by time, united by defiance. Outside, the wind carries the scent of lotus and salt, the sea remembering its queen. 2 days after the discovery, the desert is no longer still. News satellites orbit above. Government convoys stir the sands. Yet, beneath the surface, Layla sits in solitude beside the tomb, her expression weary and unguarded. She listens to the faint hum of the stone walls, as if the queen herself were breathing within. Mark enters quietly, holding a folder marked Ministry Approval pending. He says, "They want to remove the sarcophagus by tomorrow." Layla's voice is a whisper of defiance. "You can't exhume a goddess." The sound echoes through the hollow corridors, fragile yet unyielding. Above them, the desert wind howls like distant applause for the dead. In Cairo, officials debate in fluorescent-lit rooms, their words stripped of awe. They speak of logistics, funding, and security. To them, Cleopatra is not a queen. She is property, a national relic. Meanwhile, Layla watches the live broadcast from her tent, her face expressionless. A reporter's voice declares, "Egypt prepares to unveil the tomb of Cleopatra to the world." Mark sits beside her, a glass of tea untouched in his hand. He mutters, "We've just buried her all over again." Layla closes the laptop, the desert silence swallowing the noise of politics. The queen's tomb remains below, patient, waiting. The night before the extraction, Layla returns alone to the tomb. Her lantern casts trembling shadows as she kneels before Cleopatra's effigy. One final time, she speaks softly, not to the camera or to history, but to the woman within the stone. "They will take you to Cairo. They will put you behind glass. But I know you did not hide for glory. You hid for peace." A faint sound stirs like stone shifting under the weight of memory. The hieroglyphs on the wall seem to pulse once more. Layla's eyes fill with tears, the weight of millennia pressing on her chest. She whispers, "I will protect your silence." Flashback. The priests of Isis lock the final seal. Their chants rise like waves as molten resin closes the tomb. Outside, the first rays of dawn strike the temple facade. A young acolyte turns to his master, voice trembling. "Will she rise again?" The elder replies, "When the world remembers her, not as queen, but as woman." The camera follows their retreat, torches fading into the dawn mist. The tomb disappears under sand and centuries, guarded not by walls, but by forgetting. At sunrise, cranes and cables lower into the tomb. The world's cameras watch. Dr. Layla Hassan stands aside, her face unreadable, her hands clasped in silent protest. Mark watches her, torn between duty and reverence. As the machinery hums to life, the lid begins to lift, its weight ancient and unwilling. The air trembles, the workers pause, each hearing a faint, resonant sigh from the stone. The world expects spectacle, but as the lid tilts toward the light, the interior is empty. The effigy gone. Only a single golden serpent remains, coiled in perfect stillness. Layla closes her eyes, a faint smile touching her lips. She has chosen her silence. The footage spreads before dawn. 1,000 news feeds replaying the same impossible moment. The empty tomb, the vanished effigy. Across the world, anchors speak the words, Cleopatra's body missing. But their voices falter under the weight of disbelief. In Cairo, Layla stands before a crowd of officials demanding answers. Cameras flash, microphones thrust forward like weapons. She speaks softly. Nothing was stolen. She was never meant to be possessed. Her words spark outrage, but her gaze remains steady. The camera pans past her face to the skyline beyond. Minarets, cranes, and the rising sun bleeding gold across the smog, as if Egypt itself has begun to wake. Mark sits alone in his Cairo hotel room, replaying the final footage again and again. The camera caught everything. The opening, the silence, the empty tomb. Yet the timestamp shows 6 missing seconds. He enhances the audio, hearing a faint whisper beneath the hum of machinery. A woman's voice uttering 3 words in ancient Greek. He translates softly, "I am risen." The realization chills him, not with fear, but with awe. In the flicker of the TV's reflection, the image of Cleopatra's effigy glimmers faintly for a moment, not as a statue, but as a living woman looking back. Then, the screen fades to static. That night, the desert returns to silence. Tanim guards the site alone. He walks among the ancient columns, his flashlight flickering weakly in the rising wind. Sand swirls like ghostly mist, erasing footprints and signs of excavation. Near the open tomb, he kneels to pray. But when he lifts his head, a faint figure stands at the entrance. Cloaked in white, the silhouette of a woman watches him, her hair dark as obsidian, her eyes reflecting moonlight. His voice trembles. "My queen." The figure smiles faintly. Not a ghost, but an echo of eternity, and vanishes as the wind swallows her form. In the Vatican archives, an ancient papyrus once dismissed as apocryphal is unrolled again. The ink, thought to be lost, glows faintly beneath ultraviolet light, a prophecy of Isis restored through the vessel of her earthly form. The archivist trembles as the script reveals a final line. She will rise where Osiris sleeps, and silence will herald her return. The scene intercuts with Layla walking alone through the Cairo Museum, where the serpent relic rests under glass. It hums faintly as she passes, the glass vibrating under her touch. The guards see nothing. The serpent's golden eyes flicker once, alive. The world teeters between disbelief and worship. Pilgrims gather at Taposiris Magna, leaving lotus flowers in the sand. Some claim to have seen her face in the dawn mist. Others hear her voice in the sea's rhythm. Layla returns one last time, standing at the threshold of the tomb. She kneels, pressing her hand to the stone. The wind carries a faint whisper. "You have remembered me." Her eyes close. The camera pans upward as sunlight spills over the ruins, illuminating the carved reliefs of Isis and Osiris. The queen has not returned to rule, but to remind that memory itself is immortality. A year passes. The excavation is abandoned, sealed by the state, fenced with barbed wire and warnings. The desert reclaims its own. Dr. Layla Hassan returns under the pretext of survey work, yet her purpose is pilgrimage. She stands before the dunes that now cover the entrance to Cleopatra's tomb. There are no cameras, no lights, only wind and distance, Her voice breaks the stillness. You were never lost, my queen. We were. The wind answers with a low hum like whispered laughter. The camera pans high. A lone woman in endless sand, the trace of an ancient symbol barely visible beneath her feet. The serpent entwined with the sun. Dr. Mark Alvarez now lectures across Europe, his findings redacted and republished in cautious tones. In a crowded university hall, he shows the footage of the tomb's opening, omitting the 6 missing seconds. Students lean forward, hungry for revelation. He ends his talk not with evidence, but with humility. Some truths refuse to be documented. As applause fades, his eyes drift to the window. For an instant, he sees the reflection of a woman, Cleopatra, watching him from behind the glass, smiling faintly. He doesn't turn. He only bows his head, whispering, "E Virgina I Eterna." In a dim Cairo museum, a child stares at the relic, the single golden serpent displayed under glass. It hums faintly when the child presses his hand to the case, though no one else hears it. The camera follows the movement of his eyes as they trace the coils of gold. He whispers his mother's name. "Layla!" She turns, smiling softly, unaware that history has already begun to repeat. The serpent glints, its jeweled eyes flashing once before the lights flicker and return to normal. Somewhere beyond the walls, thunder murmurs across the desert once more. In the depths of the Vatican archive, the same archivist seals the papyrus once more, his trembling hands folding the ancient prophecy. But before he extinguishes the lamp, he notices a new line of ink appearing, shimmering faintly across the page. It reads, "The Queen sleeps beneath the sea." The camera fades into the blue-green shimmer of Mediterranean waters, descending through the waves toward Alexandria's drowned ruins. Among coral and stone, a figure carved in obsidian lies half-buried in silt. Cleopatra's effigy, her golden serpents intact, her face untouched by time. The sea and the desert share a secret now. The tomb sleeps again, unclaimed, unproven, yet more alive than ever. Layla's final words echo over a montage of waves breaking on Alexandrian shores, of sand shifting over the temple ruins, of the serpent gleaming quietly behind museum glass. Cleopatra taught us that immortality is not living forever. It is being remembered with wonder. The final shot fades to black as the camera sinks into the darkness of the sea, then rises slowly toward sunlight breaking fate's surface, as if emerging from 2,000 years of silence.